Fire if you believe in protecting the vulnerable and standing up against abuse. Like and subscribe right now. You're about to witness a moment where ordinary people became extraordinary heroes. This story will change how you see the power of community. Let's go. It was a typical Tuesday afternoon at the Daily Grind, a small independent cafe on Madison Street in downtown Portland, Oregon. The place was busy but not crowded, the usual mid-afternoon customers. People working on laptops, friends meeting for coffee, a few students studying. It was the kind of safe, familiar place that people in the neighborhood loved. Then the door burst open. A girl, couldn't have been more than 16 years old, came running in. Her hair was disheveled. Her clothes were torn. Her face was streaked with tears and what looked like old bruises. She was moving fast, looking panicked, her eyes wide with fear. Please help me, she gasped. Please. He's coming. He's right outside. Please. The cafe went quiet. Everyone looked up from their laptops and conversations. The girl was breathing hard, sobbing, desperate. Behind the counter, a woman named Diane, the owner of the Daily Grind, immediately moved into action. Diane was in her 60s, had worked in social services for 20 years before opening the cafe, and she recognized crisis when she saw it. Come here, honey, Diane said, her voice calm and warm. Come behind the counter. You're safe. The girl ran to Diane, who immediately put her arms around her. Other customers, seeing the distress, got up and moved closer, creating a protective barrier around the girl. What's your name? Diane asked gently. Emma, the girl gasped between sobs. My name is Emma. He's my boyfriend. He's abusive. He's been keeping me locked up. In an apartment. I just got away. I don't know if he's really coming, but I'm so scared. Through the cafe windows, people could see a man walking fast down the street, looking from side to side, searching. Diane made a decision instantly. She moved Emma further back in the cafe, into the storage room. Stay here, she said. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone except me or the police. Then she turned to her staff and customers. I need your help, she said. This young woman is in danger. Someone is looking for her. I'm calling the police. I need all of you to act normally. Act like she was never here. One of the customers, a man named James who came to the cafe every day, moved toward the window. I can see him, James said. He's outside. He's looking in the windows. Another customer, a woman named Patricia, immediately got her phone out. She'd been sitting in the corner working and had recorded the entire moment. The girl running in, Diane's response, everything. Patricia understood that documentation would be important. Diane called 911. I need to report a situation, Diane said calmly to the dispatcher. A young girl has just entered my cafe seeking help. She appears to be fleeing an abusive situation. She says a man has been keeping her locked up in an apartment. There's a male outside the cafe right now who appears to be looking for her. She's approximately 16 years old. I have her in a safe location. I need police here immediately. The dispatcher confirmed that police were being dispatched. Response time 4 minutes. Meanwhile, the man outside, Emma's boyfriend, though they would later learn his name was David, was growing more agitated. He walked past the cafe window multiple times. He looked inside. He paced. He pulled out his phone. James, who was watching from inside, moved to a position where he could see David, but David couldn't easily see him. He's on the phone, James reported. He looks angry. After what felt like an eternity, but was actually only 2 minutes, David entered the cafe. He looked around, his expression aggressive. His eyes scanned the space, searching. He approached the counter where other customers were standing. I'm looking for someone, he said to Diane, his voice controlled but with an edge. A young girl. She came in here. She ran away from me. Diane looked at him calmly. She'd dealt with difficult people before. I don't know who you're talking about, she said simply. Don't lie to me, David said, his voice growing sharper. I saw her come in here. She's my girlfriend. She has mental health issues. She gets confused. She runs away. I just want to make sure she's safe. There's no one here by that description, Diane said. She didn't waver. She didn't look away. She held his gaze. The cafe had become very quiet. Everyone was watching. Everyone was paying attention. David looked around the cafe, searching for any sign of Emma. His eyes fell on various customers, but there was no Emma visible. She was just here, he said, his voice rising. She came in through that door. I can assure you there's no teenage girl in this cafe, Diane said firmly. And I think you need to leave now. You're making customers uncomfortable." David's face flushed with anger. He looked like he might escalate the situation, but something stopped him. Maybe it was the presence of multiple adults who were now clearly paying attention to him. Maybe it was the way they were positioned between him and the rest of the cafe. Maybe it was the knowledge that someone calling the police was likely. "If she comes in, tell her David is looking for her," he said, turning to leave. "Tell her I love her and she shouldn't run. It's dangerous out there." He left the cafe. Within a minute, police sirens wailed down the street. 2 police cars pulled up in front of the cafe. Officers came inside immediately. Diane brought Emma out from the storage room. Emma was trembling but calm now that police were present. Officer Sarah Chun, a woman with training in trauma and abuse situations, spoke gently with Emma. "I'm Officer Chun," she said. "Can you tell me what's been happening?" Emma's story came out in pieces. She'd met David 6 months ago when she was at a vulnerable point, struggling with depression, feeling isolated from her family. David had been charming at first, but things had changed quickly. He'd become controlling. He'd isolated her from friends and family. He'd become physically aggressive. Over the past 3 months, he'd kept her in an apartment, rarely letting her leave. He'd been physically and emotionally abusive. He'd threatened to hurt himself if she left. He'd told her nobody would believe her. "I just got away today," Emma said. "He fell asleep and I ran. I didn't know where to go. I just saw this cafe and I knew I needed help." Officer Chin documented everything. She examined Emma's injuries, old bruises in various stages of healing, suggesting ongoing abuse. She took photographs. She called for a victim advocate. Meanwhile, David was being tracked down. When police located him and approached, he initially tried to run, but he was quickly apprehended. The apartment was searched and evidence of Emma's captivity was found. Her missing identification, her phone, which had been confiscated, personal items, and signs of a forced confinement situation. David was arrested and charged with kidnapping, assault, false imprisonment, and domestic violence. Over the next weeks, Emma received support. Victim advocates helped her understand that what happened to her wasn't her fault. She was connected with a counselor specializing in trauma. Her parents, who'd been beside themselves with worry since she'd gone missing 3 months ago, were reunited with her. The case against David was strong. Emma's testimony, the physical evidence, the injuries, and the discovery of her belongings in the apartment all contributed to a prosecution. David was convicted and sentenced to 12 years in prison. But the story didn't end with David's conviction. What happened next was important too. Diane, reflecting on the encounter, realized something profound. She'd acted on instinct, but her response was based on decades of social work experience. She recognized signs of abuse. She knew how to respond. She knew that when someone comes to you asking for help, your first responsibility is to believe them and protect them. She decided to create a training program. Diane partnered with a domestic violence organization to train cafe staff and other small business owners on how to recognize signs of abuse and how to respond safely. Code Green was the term they used, a signal that someone in the space needed help and protection. Within a year, over 200 businesses in Portland had been trained. The program expanded to other cities. Business owners learned to recognize the signs. The person who seems controlled by their companion, the injuries that don't match the explanation, the fear in someone's eyes, the hesitation before speaking. Emma, after months of counseling and healing, decided to speak publicly about her experience. She wrote a blog post about her time in captivity, about the signs she'd missed, about how she'd felt when she ran into the cafe and found safety. Her post went viral. Not because it was salacious, but because it was honest and it offered hope. Responses poured in. Other survivors of domestic violence sharing their stories. People sharing how they'd recognized signs of abuse in people they knew. Young people learning what healthy relationships looked like. 2 years after running into the daily grind, Emma started an organization specifically focused on helping young people recognize abuse early. The Daily Escape, named after the cafe that saved her, provided education to teenagers about what healthy relationships looked like and what warning signs to watch for. Emma also maintained a close relationship with Diane and the cafe staff. She would visit sometimes, and people would recognize her, the girl who'd run in asking for help. But she looked different now. She was confident. She was healing. She was thriving. "I don't know where I'd be if Diane had turned me away," Emma often said in interviews. "I was so afraid. I thought nobody would believe me. I thought I was trapped forever. But I took a chance. I asked for help. And the people in that cafe believed me. They protected me. They changed my life. Hashtag the deeper meaning. What this story teaches us about recognizing and responding to abuse. The story of Emma and the daily grind teaches us something crucial about domestic violence that many people don't understand. Abuse is often invisible, and it escalates gradually. Emma didn't wake up one day in a captive situation. It happened gradually. David was charming, then controlling, then isolating, then aggressive. By the time he was keeping her locked in an apartment, she was already in a state of learned helplessness. She believed what he told her, that nobody would believe her, that she deserved this, that she couldn't escape. But she did escape, and that's important to recognize. Survivors aren't passive. Emma made a choice. She saw an opportunity and she took it. She trusted her instinct that she was in danger and that she needed help. What's equally important is how people responded to her. Diane didn't question whether Emma's story was true. She didn't ask for proof. She didn't wonder if Emma was exaggerating. She heard a young person in distress, and she responded with protection and compassion. This is what everyone needs to understand about abuse situations. When someone comes to you and says they're being abused, the appropriate response is to believe them and to help them get to safety. Not to doubt them. Not to ask for details. Not to wonder if they're overreacting. Just to believe and to help. The statistics on domestic violence are sobering. 1 in 4 women and 1 in 10 men experience severe intimate partner violence in their lifetime. For teenagers, the numbers are particularly concerning. Teen dating violence affects millions of young people. Many don't recognize it as abuse because they don't know what healthy relationships look like. This is why Emma's later work was so important. By teaching young people about warning signs of abuse, she was potentially preventing future victims from ending up in situations like hers. For anyone watching who might be experiencing abuse or who knows someone experiencing abuse, this story offers several important messages. First, abuse is not your fault. David tried to convince Emma that she was the problem, that her mental health issues made her deserve his treatment. That's a common abuser tactic. But abuse is never the victim's fault. Second, you can escape. Emma did. It took courage, and it took recognizing an opportunity, but she got out. If you're in an abusive situation, there are resources. There are people who can help. The National Domestic Violence Hotline is 1-800-799-7233. They can help you make a safety plan. Third, asking for help is brave and smart. Emma could have been embarrassed. She could have tried to handle it alone. But she asked for help, and that saved her life. For anyone watching who works with the public, in cafes, stores, schools, hospitals, or anywhere, this story is a call to attention. You have more power than you might realize. You can be the person who recognizes when someone is in danger. You can be the person who responds with compassion rather than judgment. You can be the person who helps someone escape abuse. This doesn't require special training, though training helps. It requires attention, compassion, and willingness to believe people when they tell you they're in danger. For the community at large, this story is a reminder that we're all responsible for each other. When we see something that concerns us, when we notice warning signs, when we suspect someone is being abused, we have a responsibility to take it seriously. We have a responsibility to reach out. We have a responsibility to believe. And for business owners specifically, this story shows the power of creating safety in the spaces we control. Diane could have called police and stepped back. Instead, she intervened. She protected Emma. She became part of Emma's rescue. The most remarkable thing about this story is how it rippled outward. One act of compassion by one cafe owner created a training program that helped hundreds of businesses. That training program helped other people in crisis find safety. Emma's story, shared publicly, helped thousands of people understand abuse better and recognize it in their own lives or the lives of people they know. All of that started with one person, Diane, deciding that protecting a young girl who asked for help was more important than worrying about what customers would think or whether it was her responsibility. That's the real lesson here. It is our responsibility. When someone comes to us asking for help, when someone is in danger, we have a responsibility to respond with compassion and action. Fire final call to action. Did you see how Diane and the cafe customers turned a moment of crisis into a moment of rescue? How they protected Emma and helped her escape abuse. If you believe in standing up against domestic violence and protecting the vulnerable, like and subscribe right now. Let's build a community of people who recognize signs of abuse, who believe survivors, and who take action to help. Drop a comment and tell us. Have you witnessed someone in an abusive situation? Have you been helped by someone who believed you? Your stories matter and they inspire others. Share this video with business owners, teachers, healthcare workers, and anyone who works with the public. Share it with young people who need to understand what healthy relationships look like. If you or someone you know is experiencing domestic violence, please call the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-7233 or text START to 88788. There are trained counselors ready to help you create a safety plan. If you're a young person experiencing dating violence, reach out to thehotline.org or text HOME to 741741. You deserve to be safe. You deserve to be believed. You deserve to get help. Hit that notification bell so you never miss stories about people standing up against abuse. We've got more incredible stories coming about survivors, about heroes, about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. But for now, remember this. If someone comes to you asking for help, believe them. Protect them. Help them get to safety. You might be the only person who stands between them and danger. Be like Diane. Be the help someone desperately needs. See you in the next video. ***.